Okay, we are live. Thank you for joining us today for Live with Phoummala and Holly and Sound Guy Matt. My name is Holly. You can find me on the Twitters at Lehman__Holly, and we are so excited for our second episode. And Phoummala, why don't you take it from here?
Actually, I think it's our third, Holly. Wait.
Well, we had the intro, but
Yeah.
this is our second of actually let's talk certifications.
Yes.
Yes.
I almost said it's Monday, but it's actually Tuesday.
It's all a blur at this point. It's fine. It starts with ends with a Y. We're good.
Yeah. So welcome to the latest episode, and today we are going to hit Learning Path 2 and 3, and yes, we are going to speed talk. Today we're actually going to probably just go through a review and key highlights of 2 and 3. So, and Sound Guy Matt does have some videos that he's going to pop up in the corner of the screen there. You like that? I said pop up. So he's going to throw some videos up there, some of the demos that are in Learning Path 2, and also some of the videos that we have done previously while we went through the Learning Path together. So are we ready to rock it, Holly?
Let's go. Let's jump into it. A lot of content today.
Yes, a lot of content. And just warning you, I actually changed my edge to vertical tabs. So I'm kind of trying to figure out wait, where's my tabs at?
Oh, how to navigate. Yep.
Okay, so Learning Path 2, yes, it is about the core services. This particular Learning Path is primarily going to function on understanding the key differences between the infrastructure services that we have. For instance, compute, storage, are the different database options that we have, and networking as well. So
And do we talk about cost on this one as well, or do we get into cost in 3? Because I think I found that to be just the benefits of when you would use a VM over another. We have a lot of people that ask about that from a cost perspective.
So from a cost perspective, it's kind of like when to use a VM, when not to use a VM, right? That's more. But there
Correct.
is a cost management section, Learning Path, which is part 6, which is Learning Path.
We'll get there.
Yeah, that's in a few weeks. But today is Learning Path 2, and like all the fundamentals Learning Path, the first module is like that intro one that we took last week, and pretty much you can kind of skip through that because you've already done it, right? And we'll go into, there's 9 modules in Learning Path 2. The second module, the real second module, it really explores our database options that we offer. So when you get into this one, you're going to look at the differences between Cosmo DB. You're going to look at the difference between running a SQL database versus a managed SQL instance, and understanding the differences between the two and the benefits, right? Because there are differences. What features do you get when you run a SQL database versus having us manage that database and you're actually just running an instance of it? And then it also hits on Azure Database for MySQL and Postgres, and then it looks into a little bit of big data and analytics. We do have there is a demo in this one. It's the only actual demo exercise in the whole Learning Path, which is creating a SQL database. And our sound guy Matt, hopefully, will have that up shortly for us. Module number 3 in Learning Path 2 is probably one of my favorites, just because it talks about the compute services. This is more in particular that points towards understanding the difference between a virtual machine, container, app service, functions, and when to use a virtual Windows virtual desktop. And this is where I think, Holly, you were talking about like the cost differences. It does get into like, okay, when is it more cost effective to run a virtual machine versus.
And I only highlighted that because of feedback that I'm always hearing, right? Like we hear, when should I use one versus the other? And so I thought it was important to call that out for people that are listening today.
Okay.
There's Ruby, all fresh.
Oh, hi. Oh gosh, I completely lost my train of thought as my dog just entered in here. Yes, and then we go on to 4 and 5. So module 4 and 5 goes over the storage services and the Azure networking services. Sorry, my phone. I probably should have muted that already. So storage services, it goes into a high level overview of disk storage fundamentals, understanding the difference between Azure Blob Storage, Azure Files, and Azure File Shares, and the different blob access tiers that we have. And then the last module is the different networking services that we have. So brief highlight over the VPN gateway fundamentals, express route fundamentals, and then the virtual network. Hey, Sound Guy Matt, do you have the video up of the creating the SQL database?
We're still rendering. It should be just another minute or two.
Well, while we're doing that, Holly, do you want to talk about Learning Path 3?
Yeah, I mean, I can go over that a little bit. So I'm pulling it up on my end. So for Learning Path 3, are you referring to the Azure Management Tools on Azure, the overview?
Yes. Sorry,
Okay.
if my head's shaking.
That's all right.
So I here my foot.
That's all right. So I actually really liked this path because it took a lot of the day-to-day concepts that we are using and put it into a documented form, and you really understood. A lot of people ask, what is Azure? How does it work? And I find for me the real-world example is so much more helpful. So it talks about, AI, machine learning, cognitive services, and, the bot service. And so I personally liked it because it kind of breaks everything down. And, when you're using a bot service versus when you're using cognitive and the benefits for cognitive for people with various disabilities and how we're making technology better for people in different ways that advocate to any kind of disability and how we can make technology better for them. The other is the next, it kind of jumps into build better solutions. A lot of times we hear from partners and customers, we need everything talking. And so it talks about all the different Microsoft tools that we're learning and how they're built together, kind of like a Lego set, if you will. And then monitoring. It's so important for people to understand the best uses for monitoring services that we have. It goes into all the different options that you can use there. And then just managing and configuring your Azure environment. A lot of times people want to just throw up their Azure environment. This is kind of saying take a step back, understand your business scenario, and then start to move forward. And then it closes with Azure IoT for your application. We know that a lot of people now more than ever are starting to really take a look at IoT and what it can do. And they're getting really creative, whether it be a grocery store, for different, what's on the shelf versus not, to how busy is it at what time. So IoT is really getting a lot of visibility right now. So it's a really good overview. Is that a quick recap for you, P?
No, it was great. It was great recap. Just because a lot of IT pros and actually just tech professionals haven't really touched those technologies yet. So giving that brief overview lets them understand, okay, I have developers in this space. They want to, start developing into it. And it gives them an idea of what they're going to get into and possibly them as administrators managing that environment.
Well, and we talked about some of the free offerings. I don't know if you want to touch on that a little bit, P, but like we were talking about how we do have all these free offerings in Azure, and it does give a good overview of that. And we think that a lot of people aren't really as aware of what they can use for free or even from a test environment versus what they're paying for.
Oh yeah, like Azure Advisor, right? That's free. Everybody gets that.
Yep.
And to be honest with you, when I first started doing the first round of Azure Fundamentals, and I was going through it, and I was actually telling an employee, a coworker about it, and they went through it, and they're like, "What's this Azure Advisor?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, it's a service that we have that pretty much tells you what the best options for your deployment are, right?" And they didn't even know that. And the way they found out was going through a learning path, the original Azure Fundamentals. So the Azure Advisors, it's just one of those tools that we often forget because it's free. And some people think that free isn't good. Well, this is good because it can tell you many things. For instance, if you've got VMs running that are idle, that aren't really doing anything, like that's money in your pocket that you are writing a check to, or your credit card. Somebody's paying for that. So based off that, you can do all sorts of things, such as using our cost management service that we have, and putting some thresholds in, or maybe turning that particular VM off or service off.
Or finding where your spend is actually going. There's a lot of, when we think about a lot of companies out there right now that they have geolocations that are different. So they have various IT admins that are running in different aspects, although probably the best practices might be the same. They're now saying, wait, why are we getting a higher spend in this area versus this area? And we're having a lot of companies now kind of bring people back, level set, and they're looking at the cost, and they're finding that costs are being handled in different ways. And a lot of that is because the way they're handling VMs or their spend. And so cost management is there to help you navigate in a safer, healthier way.
Another thing about Learning Path 3 is it does get into a little bit of Azure DevOps and GitHub, which, everyone's talking about DevOps, right? It's the new hot thing, or hot new department that people are putting in their enterprises. And so with Azure DevOps and GitHub, if you've never touched on it before, this gives you the ability to go, okay, which one do I use, right? Do I use Azure DevOps or do I use GitHub? And to be honest, you could potentially use both. But I do see a lot of enterprises using Azure DevOps. So just because of enterprise agreements, right? Everything just kind of gets wrapped into that whole package deal. But GitHub is highly used too among developers. So it just really depends on your organization and also your security department, what they're going to allow, right? Depending on those security people, they may find that GitHub isn't, safe, which we use GitHub. So, I think it's fine, but there are some organizations that have very, very strict requirements. It's what the requirements are, but this gives you the ability just to go and decide, okay, which one is best suited for our organization. And then another one I like about Learning Path 3 is serverless technology. Just because when I hear the word serverless, like you think, oh, so it doesn't use a server? Yes, it uses a server. It's just you're not managing a server, right? You are just using a particular function, like just a small aspect, and the servers behind it, you don't need to worry about that particular service.
Because you're not managing it. You're managing the serverless piece of it.
Yeah. Just
Right.
you're just using a service
Great.
rather than a server.
Well, and I think that's where I don't have the chart up, but there's a really helpful chart where it actually talks about what you're managing versus what's managed in the cloud versus what we're managing. It's a really good layout for people that are just starting into Azure, as to who's kind of managing what and why you would use it when. Something to look at. But Matt's ready.
Yeah, we've got a demo. So this is the SQL. This is gosh, my brain. This is the exercise demo that's in Learning Path 2, and it's creating a SQL database. And I'm looking, and you guys are really, really testing my eyes here. My age is really starting to show as I'm zooming my screen so I can actually read it, Sound Guy Matt. It is zoomed at 150%. I see you giggling there.
I'll have to aim to zoom in and use a friendlier resolution. My real estate on my screens is precious, so I have it ticked up pretty high.
So when we talk about SQL databases versus managed instance, it all comes down to what your business requirements are, and how, not only that, but how much responsibility that you want to have, right? And how much you actually want to do once you agree, Matt. Because if you're looking to just use a particular instance and you don't care about the actual, managing the database, whatnot, I always tell people, do the instance. Because in my previous life, we had SQL clusters everywhere. We'd like 3 or 4 of them. And so the applications team, we would just create SQL instances for them. And sometimes we would give them like a separate database, but we never gave them access to the cluster, obviously. But from an instance standpoint, though, they were able to do just about everything. Very few actually asked to get on the server, but it'd be like the same type of concept, right? If you're only having access to either a database or a particular instance now in your environment, you could do the same thing in Azure, minus having your server team manage the back end of it, where Microsoft, we are taking care of that for you.
Yep, agreed. That shared responsibility model is something that folks need to take advantage of. They, as part of leveraging more of the platform type services, they can shift that responsibility off their own plate, and then that allows the people who are specialists in those particular fields or those areas of expertise. It allows them to focus on the job that they need to do, whether it's developing for SQL or maybe it's application development. But really, it shifts that kind of back end responsibility off of their plate.
Oh, it's the demo I keep hearing. I keep hearing something. It must be the demo.
It's okay. We all hear noises. I got my second shot Friday, and I woke up Saturday morning just hearing a beep, beep, beep.
Oh gosh!
Everybody on Twitter said that your battery chip can't be going out already.
Totally.
Yeah. The question really is your cell reception any better, P?
Hey, we live streamed right after I was done, and everybody's camera looked amazing. Okay?
I bet.
Everyone's video was amazing, so it had to have been the second shot. So yeah, the SQL database creation is going on. The demo takes about 10 minutes, Matt, to go through.
Yeah, this one's 10-15 minutes minus erroneous placement of credentials and things like that. But yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things you have to look out for here. You have to wait for the complete deployment, the provisioning process to complete.
Yeah, I found that to be a little bit of a bugger.
Yep.
So something that we definitely want to bring up is the learning path. When you are done with the module, you get that little pop-up that says, "Oh, congratulations," and then it says "click continue," and you're going to assume that continue button is going to take you to the next module in your learning path. What Holly and I have found out that it doesn't always do that.
No. I got bumped from 2 to 4. I thought, did I go through it that fast, or did I just completely go through 3 and didn't catch it at all?
Yeah, at first I thought it was just me, like, and then I was like, no, there's something buggy going on here. So one of the recommendations we have is definitely bookmark where you're at.
Yep.
And, as you're going through the module, you'll get through that knowledge check. And then the pop-up comes up. When the pop-up comes up, if you click continue, just double check that you are in the same learning path that you were before. You could be in a different one. And if you're not, go back to that original learning path that you are in. Otherwise, you keep going down this rabbit hole of different learning paths. The next thing you know, you're like, whoa, where am I? And that's okay if you want to do that, right? Because you can actually, get a whole bunch of learning paths completed.
But then you don't know which ones you're missing, right? Yeah. If you're not really paying attention, and that's where we talked about bookmarking. And the other thing we should talk about for people that saw the first one and saw us go through the knowledge check, I think we should call out that we're not going to do that anymore. We're gonna talk through the learning paths and the key learnings that we got out of it. We'll go through the demo, but we decided that it's up to the audience to go through their knowledge check.
Yeah, because we're not going to give you the answers.
We don't cheat.
Yes, and I do want to make a statement about brain dumps. I know there's a lot of requests for them. I see them all the time in the forums, Facebook groups. We do not. What's the word I want to use, Matt, about brain dumps?
I wouldn't condone them, promote them.
Yeah. Bad. Don't just don't. Right. It's you can actually get your certification revoked if if it's found out that you were using brain dumps, because you know what that is. That's like cheating almost. I mean, it is. You're just memorizing answers to tests, and are you really understanding that knowledge of the skills that you need to pass the test? So if you're being offered brain dumps, say no, just like no to drugs, walk away from it. Do these learning paths, right? And maybe you have to go through them several times. And then also look at the different study guides out there between Thomas Maurer, you got Pluralsight. There's a whole bunch of resources out in the community that have study guides that you can look at and review and then do these exams. And then oftentimes we also offer free certification exams too. I know we had some opportunities back in this last Ignite, Holly. I think we offered that.
Yes, there was one. If you did one of the questions from Rick, I think Rick and Donna both suggested it, but you would get a little coupon or discount for going through one of the certifications. So there's always these opportunities, because just like how we have various free services within Azure, we also have free opportunities, meaning Microsoft wants you to learn the best practices for Azure and be successful. So it's something to look at and think about. And I think with, just a few minutes left in this episode, I think we should talk about ways that we want to get the audience engaged. For people that are listening, we're basically going down A to Z for the Azure Fundamentals. And so if you want to keep going through this with us and you have questions, join us Tuesdays at, we go live at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
p.m. Eastern.
That's right. So come with questions. Follow us. We're up to Learning Path. We're going to do Learning Path number 4 next Tuesday. Maybe not next Tuesday, but the following. And we want you included. We want you to come with questions. What did you find interesting? What did you find a bit wonky? Like I found being jumped to Learning Path 4 was a bit wonky for me. So we want to hear all the good, the bad, and get you engaged. The more people engage, the more fun it will be for everybody. We want you to come and learn with us, right? Hashtag.
Yeah. Learning together. Definitely. Having your participation with us makes us a little bit more fun. So it's just not us 3 sitting here talking to an open space of people going, is anybody listening to us?
That's right.
Yeah. No, it also makes learning more fun too when you learn together. Because remember, like back in college and high school when you would have study groups, I seem to retain information a little bit better when I'm studying with a bunch of friends, because if I don't understand something, I can ask somebody that question. They can explain it to me, and vice versa. So,
And we come with different perspectives and we take different pieces out of it. I am more of the customer partner experience side of it. So I might think about, hey, this would be a really interesting piece for someone new into Azure, or these are questions that I get all the time. And I think going through the learning path also shows that Microsoft wants you to find all the little nuances that are offered within the service as well.
yeah, I mean, for us to go through individually each learning path, it's kind of like, hey, we're doing all the work, which is fine. But at the same time, we want to encourage you to do some work with this as well and see what you get out of it, if it's worthwhile, right? Because if there's something that's missing, or you feel like we could put a little bit more information, we can take that feedback to the Learn team as well.
There was one other thing I wanted to add, and I know we've kind of touched on this a little bit before, but a number of the certifications, including AZ900, have special discount programs in place right now for people whose jobs have been impacted by COVID.
Yes.
And so with that, I want to say the exam is $15 instead of $99 for the COVID exam. So when you go look to register for those exams, take advantage of any opportunities like these discounts. Potentially, some of the exams have free second take or second retakes. So look for those types of opportunities. Obviously, as we see them, we can share them with everybody. But it's really important to highlight that even the certification programs themselves, they're trying to reshape in support of folks who have been impacted by COVID, and we're looking for opportunities to help help people get their education, learn the skills that they need to be successful in their jobs.
Oh, we have a viewer that he or she had free 2 certification. So that's
awesome.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Because why would you throw away something that's free, right? Got to take advantage of it. It's free. Everybody loves free stuff.
And I think that highlights too, P, what you were saying about brain dumps and stuff like that. Like when you spend the time to study and you work through the material, and you take advantage of those second take opportunities, you're going to find yourself being successful.
Oh, I also wanted to bring up before we end the show today is if you guys and gals out there wanted to wanted to have particular guests on the show, and potentially the writers of the learning path or experts within that field, let us know.
Because we can pull in people from the PM team, from the partner team, or community, or from the MVP community. We have so many different people out there who want to showcase what they do. Yeah, Steve Jobs, nice one.
Yeah, sorry. But I'm sure we can, there's, other people that I'm sure we can pull in. I mean, we aren't completely like, nobodies. We might be like a small. Awesome. Well, it looks like we are out of time today, right. Holly. This has been fun.
Yes. I personally learned a lot from number 3. I hope everybody got something out of module 2, module 3, and get ready to jump into module 4 or learning path 4 and find out how you can keep yourself a bit more protected with things like Key Vault. Stay tuned.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, and see you 2 weeks from now.
That's right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.